You so much. Again, nobody is more familiar with the Orangeburg area than our Devin Johnson. He's out there every day reporting for Street Squad, and he literally heard about the shooting minutes after it happened. What we still don't know, Darcy, are a couple of really important things. We don't know the conditions of those 3 children or their ages who were shot outside of their high school today. We also don't know if there is a suspect or a suspect in custody. We are waiting to hear from law enforcement in Orangeburg County to get those answers for you.
Yeah, as I mentioned about 45 minutes ago when we went on air, I called Sheriff Ravenel personally. Obviously, he didn't take my call. We are not his priority, but what we want to know more about is the process. What happens in a situation like this? What is law enforcement doing? We know what the school has to do in order to keep students safe. So joining us now live by phone, Newberry County Sheriff Lee Foster. Sheriff Foster, thank you so much for taking a couple of minutes to talk with us. We want to say first and foremost, you are not involved in this investigation. You're on the phone with us now to talk more about policy, procedure, and practice when there is this type of situation.
That's correct. I have no active knowledge other than what I see on your station, and I just would speak of the generalities of what goes on in cases like this.
So, Sheriff Foster, we saw a live look there from our reporter, and we saw car after car. I mean, there were 7 police and sheriff's cars with lights and sirens flashing in the parking lot. What are their first moves when they get boots on the ground there? What is their first priority?
Well, the first priority is always going to be ensuring that the persons or any persons that are injured get medical aid. The second priority would be securing the area to make sure that everybody else in the area would be safe. This is kind of a unique situation in a school shooting in that I'm hearing that it's a drive-by and not an active shooter. So if it were an active shooter, the officers would be going in and trying to locate the active shooter without hesitation. However, this appears to be a drive-by, and so you would secure the scene and get the victims out, and then begin trying to evacuate the rest of the students to a safe location to where they can be reunited with their parents or transported home.
Sheriff Foster, since this is not an active shooter situation, it's not surprising to us that there is not more law enforcement heading towards the school. Is that correct?
That'd be correct. If of course, it was an active shooter and somebody on the scene, law enforcement would immediately respond to the scene and then go straight to where the shooter is. This is a drive-by, apparently, from what I see in the reports. So the majority of your officers would be out looking for whomever the suspects are or the suspect vehicle. So they would be working the perimeter or going to certain locations. But I would strongly suspect that there are probably a lot more law enforcement officers around that scene than you're seeing maybe in the back parking lots or something. And then, of course, the next thing you'd want is you'd have your evidence technicians to come in and gather the evidence to try to tie that to a suspect.
Sheriff Foster, I don't know if you're watching News 19, but we did just show a video of a drone flying overhead. Explain just from a tactical standpoint how drones help in a situation like this.
Well, let's assume at this point that that's a law enforcement drone. The law enforcement drone would help identify the crime scene, and it would help locate evidence. That's not necessarily a law enforcement drone. It could be a media drone, or it could be a citizen drone. Relatively new technology as far as law enforcement goes, but in this case, if it's a law enforcement drone, they're probably looking to get an overview, bird's eye view, if you would, of the crime scene, and to see if they can see evidence and identify that, so the technicians can go and gather that.
Sheriff Foster, some good news in this breaking news situation. We just heard from the school that the injuries to the students are deemed non-life threatening. So again, Injuries, non-life threatening when it comes to those 3 students who were injured in today's shooting. So that is good news if there can be any in a situation like this. Let me ask you about the school resource officers. And again, obviously you're not very familiar with everything that happens inside OW, but what would the role of a SRO be in a situation like this?
Well, SRO in a situation like this, they would be more than likely watching points during the day as a matter of their task. After school, would be watching areas, maybe the bus line or the car rider line, or as students would transition to some mode of transportation to go home. You know, a lot of schools have one resource officer for a huge school, so they can't be everywhere. So they're going to be at the point to where there is more students located, so that they can observe the movement of the students. Not knowing anything about what happened here today and where the shooting occurred, it'd be difficult to say where the SRO would be. But as a general rule, after school, the SRO's job is just to make sure that the students get safe and orderly to the modes of transportation to egress from campus.
Parent, Darcy's a parent. I know you are. What do we tell our kids? How do we tell our kids, you know, to be safe at school? What messages do we give them about what to look for in a situation like this, what to do, how important it is to listen to law enforcement like yourself and school authorities? What do we tell our kids to do in an awful situation like this one?
Well, you know, as a parent, you know, my children are recently graduated from college, but as a parent, that's a very difficult thing to do. And from a perspective of a kid, I know most of the kids know what's going on. The SROs and the different factions of law enforcement work with the teachers and the staff, and they work on safety plans, and they try to be prepared and ready for an event like this. It's a very, very sad state of affairs when you have to be ready for something like this, but you must be ready in today's world. But the best thing to do is tell your kids to please listen to what your teachers and the staff at the school, as well as your SRO, tells you when they do the education and the drills, and just to take it seriously. But you cannot live your life in fear. Mm-hmm. If we live our lives in fear, then the element that is doing this wins, and you don't want them to win. So you cannot live your life in fear. Being prepared and being precautious does not mean that you are in fear. It means that you are ready for something to take place. So the schools teach their kids about run, hide, fight. Every school is doing that now. And you just instill in them that your teachers are going to take care of you, and I guarantee you that's the teacher's paramount mission, is to take care of those students, and they're their children, literally, and the law enforcement officers are there to protect them too.
All right, very good to remember. Thank you so much, Sheriff, for your time. And again, good advice. Tell your kids, pay attention during the active shooter drills, and listen to your SRO and your teachers.